ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd Podcast.
Wow, is this a singe job on Kobe Bryant? Henry Abbott, sort of a basketball academic, works for this company. He's on in an hour and a half. Writes that Kobe Bryant is destroying the Lakers from within. Listen to some of these quotes about Kobe. Quote, peek behind the banners, said one NBA agent, and it's rotten. He's like the big rock in the Lakers' front yard, says an agent who's had a Laker client in recent years. You can't mow over it, so you have to mow around it. Another agent with current Laker clients was asked whether Kobe undermines the team's rebuilding by alienating would-be free agent recruits. Said the agent, well, duh, isn't that obvious? Said another, I've had a lot of clients in the last 5 years, good players, don't want to play with Kobe. They see that his teammates become the chronic public whipping boys. Said another front office executive from a rival team who knows everyone involved well. Quote, it's horrendous with the Lakers. It's evil. It's a hard drug to quit when you're winning. Kobe's cost the Lakers dearly in human capital. He's hurt a lot of people. In some cases, jeopardized careers, unquote. Says a source close to a Laker decision maker. Kobe wants to win, but only as long as he's the reason we're winning. See that? We're winning. Somebody within the organization. We're winning. As long as the performance is not affecting his numbers. Nobody works harder than Kobe, and no one sabotages his own efforts more. He's scaring off free agents that we're trying to get. We're trying to surround Kobe with talent, and his ego is getting in the way. There you go. This is what we have largely been saying for a year and a half, and now we're persona non grata in Lakerland. Jeannie Buss is supposed to be on this show tomorrow in studio. We're hoping she doesn't cancel. It will not be a puff interview. Listen, I always admired how John Elway retired, Derek Jeter. I don't mind tours, but there's a certain dignity. Now, maybe years later after Johnny Carson retired, we find out that he's not a great guy all the time. But I have no problem understanding that aspirational people in show business or in sports have warts and have flaws and sometimes trample a few people. But with Kobe Bryant, it's really ending the way it ended for Marlon Brando, and nobody in the 20s or 30s knows who Marlon Brando is, I imagine, but deluded, self-important, wants to be the highest paid, but nobody really wants to work with him. Yes, he's got a great resume, and yes, he can still bring it occasionally, but it's become so diluted and so difficult to work with. I told the guys this morning when I read this article, I said, well, what's happened to Kobe now is that everything's about vanity. Instead of, like Derek Jeter, taking a little less, mostly leaving at the right time, Kobe's about the most money, proving points to owners, scolding young players. He wants all of us to know it's his franchise and his league, and everything's got to be on his terms. My gut feeling is LeBron James will retire with much more elegance. So this is an article in ESPN, the magazine, which has done really remarkable work in the last 6 months. That, it's amazing. Even people inside. He is sabotaging the organization. I think what the Lakers did, and if Jeannie Buss comes on the show tomorrow, I'll say this because it needs to be said. Is it Thursday? Great. Love to have her. Never met her. Supposed to be smart. But two things happened with the Lakers. A, they refused to bottom out. And in the NBA, be great or terrible, because as you rebuild, trying to be okay is quicksand, especially in the West. And the second thing is they got into the man worship business, paying a star for past success in a salary cap league to death sentence. So, one, they weren't willing to be terrible. That's what Boston did. That's why Boston's got players, momentum, and draft picks. That's what Philadelphia is doing. Los Angeles could have done it. They've built so much equity with their fan base. weren't willing to do it. Secondly, it's a celebrity town. Kobe's a big celebrity, and they were afraid to step up and go, here's $12 million. Don't like it, go to Memphis. Where was Kobe going to go? Really? Can you see him playing for the Grizz? You really see him as a Charlotte Bobcat? Coming up at the bottom of the hour, Henry Abbott, who writes a scathing article, well-sourced, on Kobe Bryant in ESPN, the magazine, where somebody inside the Lakers calls him out, players, agents around the league, and executives call out Kobe Bryant. You know what's interesting in the Lakers that nobody ever talks about? The reason I said they should have bottomed out 2 years ago, it would have been really attractive to other free agents. Because what happens is, A, now you got to play with Kobe, and B, even if another star comes, you can't afford a third for 2 years. The truth is, there's just not many great players available next year. Notable free agents next summer, LeBron and Kevin Love, they're not going to the Lakers. They're not leaving Cleveland. Mark Gasol, okay. He going to win you a title in the West? He can't get out of the West first round now. I mean, with a roster in Memphis that's talented. Klay Thompson, like him a lot. But will Kobe give him any shots? I mean, LaMarcus Aldridge, I like him. LaMarcus Aldridge isn't carrying you to the Western Conference Championship. Had the Lakers bottomed out, their rebuilding process would already be well underway. But here, taking care of Kobe, you're 2 years into it, you're still a mess. You gotta bottom out. In the NBA, being okay or just below average as you rebuild is quicksand. They're dead. As I said 2 years ago, they're going to be dead for half a decade.
Colin Cowherd.
The Thundering Herd Podcast.
It's on newsstands now. ESPN, the magazine. View it now on ESPN.com. From the True Hoop blog, Henry Abbott wrote this article on Kobe Bryant. Some of the quotes here. Says an agent, Kobe's like the big rock in the front yard. You can't mow over it. You have to mow around it. Peek behind the banner, said one longtime NBA agent, and it's rotten. Said another agent, I've had a lot of clients in the last 5 years, good players. They don't want to play with Kobe. They see that his teammates become the chronic public whipping boys. Boy, that's true. Says a front office executive from a rival team. It's horrendous. It's evil. It's a hard drug to quit when you're winning. Kobe's cost the Lakers dearly in human capital. He's hurt a lot of people, jeopardized careers. Says a source close to the Laker decision makers. He wants to win, but only as long as he's the reason we're winning. We're winning. As long as the performance is not affecting his numbers. He's scaring off the free agents. We're trying to get. So Henry Abbott joining us. That's somebody. When I hear the we're trying to get, I thought everybody in Lakerland loved him. Is that not the case?
No, that's not the case. They're not dumb, right? Everybody's been there with front row seats, and I can't believe anybody's really surprised by this. I know it's a sort of jarring set of quotes you just read, but the fact is, like, Phil Jackson's book came out a while back and said that Phil marched into Mitch Kupchak's office and said, we need to trade this guy. No one can play with him. We've seen public feuds with basically every co-star he's had through his career. There's no evidence that and you ask him, if you ask Kobe Bryant, what is he like as a teammate? He says, he uses words that we can't say on the radio, right? He says he's terrible to play with because he's so demanding and etc. Now he's in a phase of his career where being that kind of bossy and positioning himself as the authority figure on everything is kind of a turnoff because he doesn't, remember that season then they blew up against the Mavericks, which is really when Phil's last series, right? Like, Kobe didn't practice with the team that year. Yet he still was the guy who told everybody who was wrong and went to the media.
Why didn't he practice?
He was recovering from a bunch of injuries, but he sort of arranged something where he would work with his personal rehab crew. He had real injuries. I mean, the man works. He's dealt with incredible array of injuries, and to be at his position at his age, performing as well as he does, is unbelievable. But it's self-motivated, right? That's what the evidence is from all these sources. It's not about the team winning; it's about him doing the best performance to forward his own agenda. Closest to the mic as you can. Henry Abbott joining us, the Herd on ESPN Radio. Okay, when sometimes you have to pull things out of people. I remember Tom Verducci when he broke the story with Ken Caminiti. He said that they went into his garage, sat in these chairs, and Ken Caminiti unflinching for hours talking about steroids. Ken Caminiti was like, yeah, what do you want to know? I'll name names. When you bring up Kobe Bryant, are people, I've always felt that Kobe's offended enough people or
jeopardized enough careers where people are willing to talk. Like it looks like in this article, it's not like you had to knock on doors for hours, right?
Well, what does take knocking on doors for hours is getting anyone to use their name talking about Kobe Bryant. He's a very influential NBA guy, and there's almost a tradition in the NBA of just kind of being chicken, and nobody wants to say, hey, Kobe really hurt my feelings when he did blank. Like, we don't see a lot of that. But part of the reason I'm like, this is not so surprising is when you call around, front offices or agents, et cetera, in the NBA and tell them about this, they're like you saw, some of the quotes were like, everyone's like, yeah, like, of course that's why they're having a hard time getting free agents. Everybody knows that. That's a story, so it's just.
Who inside the organization? I could not believe when they signed into that contract. They signed it earlier than they had to. They could have shown patience, which is historically, it's common sense. With veteran players who get hurt more, you always wait until the end to sign them because they can get hurt. The Lakers didn't. Who pushed inside the organization? Was it Jim? Was it Jeannie? Let's sign him early.
A lot of what the Lakers do these days is based on the guessing game of the legacy of what would Dr. Buss do.
Oh,
right?
boy.
I mean, he's an iconic figure in LA with the franchise and with the league. And, everyone thought he was crazy when he paid Magic Johnson, one of the biggest contracts in basketball history. And basically he has a tradition of taking care of their own.
Yeah.
There was also, they have a ton of influential season ticket holders. They have a ton of power brokers who care about the Lakers. And there was an appetite for more Kobe. He also does make them money. They have an unusual local TV deal where, the Buss, and they have an unusual ownership situation. The Buss family gets its income for the Sixers from the operations of the team.
Yeah.
I think most teams have a very wealthy owner who may at times supplement the team, right? That's not how it goes in Lakerland, right? So Kobe is a money-making star for the Lakers even now. When he's on the court, the TV ratings are higher. So they would have to and if you part ways with him or get in any kind of ugly negotiation with him, now you're having a popularity contest with your own fans between the people who run the team, the Buss family, and Kobe Bryant. Nobody had any appetite for that. So there was you could tell yourself you needed him because of the Dr. Buss tradition of taking care of stars. You could tell yourself it was, it could make you money personally. There are a lot of ways you could rationalize it, and the combination was enough. And don't forget, they made the playoffs. Surprisingly, they made it. They looked pretty good. Kobe looked pretty good for his age during that little stretch, and it just wasn't the right time to amnesty him or do anything bold or bargain really hard.
The piece is called Kobe Destroying the Lakers from Within, ESPN.com, True Hoop blog, Henry Abbott, the Herd on ESPN Radio. One of your quotes I see here is, it's horrendous, it's evil, says a front office exec. It's a hard drug to quit when you're winning. Another one I see here is, I've had a lot of clients in the last 5 years, good players, who don't want to play with Kobe. That's interesting to me. Because you talked to several agents here. Does anybody like to play with Kobe? When you look at the free agents next year, can I throw this out there? There's a rumor that LeBron will publicly say nice things, but doesn't lose any sleep over Kobe Bryant. Does he like Kobe?
I don't know what's in LeBron's heart, but actions speak louder than words, right? He could have played for the Lakers for max dollars. Remember, the NBA has a history of all the best players in the league just force their way to LA, right? Magic Johnson said he would have stayed in college if the Lakers hadn't won that coin toss with the Bulls for the top overall pick in that draft, right? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar forced his way there by trade. Kobe forced his way there. Shaq forced his way there. Wilt Chamberlain forced his way there, right? So the Lakers are a huge draw. The market is a huge draw. Being close to Hollywood and stars and all this stuff, this is the best franchise. It's the moneymaker. You make money off the court when you're there. There's every reason to want to go there. And the fact that Dwight Howard could have had more guaranteed income to stay and he left, and now there's max money. Lakers have max money this past summer and couldn't get a top shelf star. I mean, history has never seen this before. This is a big deal.
Mike Brown out, Mike D'Antoni out, Byron Scott in. Did Kobe handpick Byron Scott?
I understand that none of those people you just mentioned was going to force Kobe into a role he wasn't comfortable with, so it doesn't make a big difference, I don't think. I think Kobe was okay with any one of those people, from what I've heard.
Henry Abbott joining us, the Herd on ESPN Radio. How long did it take to procure all these quotes?
Oh, it seems like my life. It took a long time.
So a lot of these are over a year old.
A lot of this work was done last summer. I did a lot of research on this last summer. If you go look in the True Hoop archives, there was a month where I pretty much didn't publish anything, and I was just making calls. At that time, I was really determined to get more people on the record, and it just was so tedious. And and difficult. And since then, I got this new job. I'm an editor now, and I have very little time for writing. And it found its way through the publication and made it into the magazine now. So it's a little bit of a funny thing where it's been a while since I've talked to some of these people. But I did, I did check with all these sources more recently, and it's truer than ever.
Does Kobe make a point of ever, when criticized, contacting you or others? I mean, all these quotes are what we've been saying largely, as you said earlier, on the air for 2 years, is that players don't want to play with him. Coaches struggle with him. Mike D'Antoni came on our show and said he's like riding Secretariat. You don't coach him, you just kind of ride him. Is it hurting the coaching search? I mean, for instance, the Lakers had an opening. Who really applied? Do you think it's hurting not only players but coaches?
I mean, it's a bad moment for the team, right? Their cap situation isn't great. They didn't get free agents. They don't have like a miracle draft pick, etc. So it's not a good moment. If you have choices and you're a top shelf coach, you don't really want to coach this team unless it's going to be for 2016 and beyond. That's when they have real cap room and a chance for a coach to actually install a system and run it.
I'll be Kobe for a second. Hey, anonymous sources. What do they mean?
I hear you, but I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, right? Like, I don't think there's anything wrong in here, and it is annoying. No one wants these sources on the record more than I do, and I've begged and pleaded with them and pushed and pulled, and you do the best you can. My thought is, call any team, call a GM, give them truth serum, and ask them if this is true or not. And my impression is it's 100% true.
I think he reduced Steve Nash to a hobbled number 2 shooting guard, and Nash at his core is a point guard. Do we know if their relationship's okay?
Steve Nash has been on the record. I actually, give me a second. I can look it up.
Sure.
He said that here. This was on Grantland a while back. Told Zach Lowe, I think it'd be nice to find a middle ground where he does his thing, but the ball still can move for great parts of the game.
So he's acknowledging it doesn't.
Yeah. But I knew it wasn't going to be the same. When you play with Kobe Bryant, the ball is going to be with him most of the time. And people who are close to Steve told me, like, as a leader, Steve sees it as his job to make sure every other one of his teammates is inspired and motivated and ready to play their absolute best. If you watch, the Suns a while ago did this crazy good thing where they counted how many times he touched his teammates all game, how many high fives per game. Insane number, hundreds per game. He's just like keeping everybody's spirits up. So a guy who's looking down the bench and saying, how are you doing today? Are you ready to produce? How about you? He feels the sting of a disdainful teammate more than anyone because he knows that these guys are, they're not getting that kind of love. They're not feeling inspired. They're not excited to go to work with Kobe Bryant.
Yeah. Phil Jackson now with the Knicks. Do Phil and Kobe today, what's that relationship like?
There's the belief that Phil had the best chance to force Kobe into a more limited role, which would have allowed free agents or Dwight Howard to stay, right? Like, I think that, right or wrong, I don't know. Phil seems to admit in his books that he struggled with containing Kobe in any way. By that, I really just mean like what the ball does, right? And where you are in the court. Like if Phil draws up a play at the end of a game, is that the play they'll run? Or will Kobe just go get the ball and do whatever he wants, which is what Phil says often happened, right? So the idea was that you get Phil or some very strong leader to force Kobe into a more limited role. Then maybe you could put together something like you can buy time like they did with Shaq. You can buy time like with Bynum and have like a period of enough peace to maybe win a championship. But that didn't happen.
Yeah, I think it's a bad team. I think it's a 25-win team. I think it's a bad team.
It's a bad team.
It's like an expansion roster,
yeah.
Like an old Spencer Haywood and a young kid from Kentucky, and it's bad.
Yeah.
Carlos Boozer, Nash got hurt carrying luggage. Julius Randle isn't ready.
And it's not the best time for the Clippers to have a new owner and a lot of inspirational
Clippers
spirit
are great.
And blah, 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 Yeah.
ESPN, the magazine, the piece, Kobe destroying Lakers from within. I think it's interesting. I think it's fascinating. Good seeing you.
Thank you.
Want more of The Herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
It's interesting. All the Kobe fans now bring out the pom-poms. You guys are so desperate. This is the first time anybody's ever written a critical article about Kobe Bryant. ESPN, the magazine's got a piece, how he's destroying the Lakers from within. And all the Laker fans, this is so unfair. Look at your roster. It's a mess. It was a mess last year. Everybody, Shaq left. Dwight Howard left. Gasol left. Would they be leaving if LeBron was there? Kobe's hard to play with. He's playing 1997 basketball where he takes the ball in the angle like Melo and won't pass it. Go watch the San Antonio Spurs win a title. Watch the year before. Who won a title? Miami. Few years before that, Dallas. What did they all have in common? Ball movement. You can't move the ball with Kobe. He gets it in the angle. It's a one-on-one game. That's why I think Carmelo Anthony's massively overvalued. They're playing a game that's a decade old. The NBA now is about spacing and ball movement and hitting threes. Finding the open guy. That's won it for the Spurs last year, the Heat 2 previous years, and Dallas the year before that. The game changes. It's like the NFL. Nobody runs a huddle. They did 4 years ago. Nobody huddles in college football. They did 4 years ago. The NBA has changed. The league is too fast. Centers are not nearly as important because they can't keep up with the game. Without the hand check, you can't touch the point guards. Players are getting faster. Therefore, centers can't keep up with the game. The big 7-footer back to the basket guy, he really doesn't exist in the NBA. Dwight Howard has no success in this league once the playoffs arrive. And Kobe is now at a point in his career where you don't get the talent, but you get all the baggage. Remember how disrespectful he was when asked if Mike D'Antoni could take him out of a game?
Mike's really going to tell me when to go in and out of the game?
Listen to that. He's not coachable. It's like Barry Bonds at the end. You got the baggage, but you didn't get the 340 hitter. Now you don't get an elite defender. Now you get a guy not playing 2014 basketball. Now you get a guy shooting 45%, doesn't elevate. You get a jump shooter with massive vanity and entrepreneurial issues where it's his franchise in his eyes. And again, in other sports without a salary cap, I wouldn't care what Kobe made. I don't care what Derek Jeter makes in his last year. It's a non-salary cap sport. I don't care. But in a salary cap league, if you're overpaying for one, then you got to give up something else. It's like a family budget. If you have $500 a month to feed your family and the guy's buying $200 in whiskey, then that's $300 to feed your family. It's hurting the kids. It's hurting somebody else. You've got a limited budget. Who was this call? Terry, go ahead.
Hey, Colin, I wanted to comment two quick things. One, I think you're making totally two different points. I agree with your point that no one necessarily wants to play with Kobe at this stage of his career. Everything you're saying is correct. But when you bring up his salary, though, that's an entirely different point. I'm tired of hearing every time we mention Kobe, and I'm a Phoenix Suns fan, but when we mention sports, and I understand that basketball has a salary cap, but here's what people are missing, that the owners don't have a cap on what they bring in.
Okay, so let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. That's right.
Okay, let me finish.
No, let's not. Let's not, Terry. Okay. The owners don't have a salary cap. Therefore, it's irrelevant. I don't care what they make. They take the capital entrepreneurial risk. The player doesn't have to play insurance. The player doesn't have to negotiate.
Are the Lakers forced to pay Kobe?
No, I would never have paid Kobe. That's why the Lakers are with
the Lakers are they mandated that they have to pay him that $25 million?
But
Kobe, he's bluffing and let him go. If he's not worth it, let him go.
Yes, we know that Kobe's not worth it. But Kobe got into a situation, and we're not taking the Buss family out of the equation, Terry. We have said they're weak ownership. They're not like their father. They're more worried about what our dad would have done, which is like illustration number one. They don't know what they're doing. Dad's gone. Got to be a grown-up. Got to run the franchise yourself. But I don't care what owners make. There's no owner salary cap. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter what ESPN makes. I negotiate my contract. If there was a radio salary cap in this department and I demanded a certain number, it would limit the quality of producers I could work with. Kobe, if you look at his contract, was more concerned being the highest paid player in the year in the league than winning games. And combined with weak current ownership, they created a mess. This Laker team, they're not even interesting. You know why they got Jeremy Lin? Because they think he's sort of interesting. I mean, this roster, you can tell. Nash, interesting. It's not a winning roster. It's a quirky. Jeremy Lin, Nash, Boozer, Kobe. Defensively, awful. In the West, awful. They'll give up 140 points a dozen times this year. Oh, it'd be just awful defensively. Now, John Ireland's the voice of the Lakers. He said the Kobe deal at the time was justified.
He's the biggest star in Los Angeles, in a town that has Leo DiCaprio and Jack Nicholson. What our fans expect and what they know is that if you got tickets to see Kobe Bryant, you're coming. And the challenge for Mitch and Jim and everybody now is to build around him for 2 more years.
Well, I don't think you build franchises based on who's the biggest star. I think you build this is not minor league hockey. It's not seat cushion night. Who wins games? I don't think the New England Patriots would dump Tom Brady tomorrow. Tomorrow. The St. Louis Cardinals dumped the biggest star in town, Albert Pujols. The Giants move away from Barry Bonds. If you're into stars, but stars are only interesting if they're winning games. Carmelo's not interesting when he's 40 and 42. I don't think you build a team that way. I do not think you build a team based on, well, this guy's popular. In the NBA, in the NFL, in baseball, it's not about that. It's about winning games. You win games outside of the Tampa Bay Rays, people show up. I mean, there's like 1 or 2 exceptions, but in pro sports, it's not minor league baseball where you give something away to get fans. If you win games in the pros, people almost always show up. All right, let's go to we went down Pom Pom Avenue earlier. Let's go to Cheerleaders Outfit Street next. I'm lining up all the Kobe. I always love that you guys pick on Kobe. Yeah, we really pick on Kobe. All right, here we go. Hold on. All right, here's another one. All right, Mike, go ahead.
Hey, Colin. I want to go back to the guy that wrote the article for ESPN and talked about how Steve Nash, how many times he touches everybody's hand and how he moves the ball and all this great stuff. Well, Steve Nash never won anything in his life. You guys are talking about Kobe Bryant like he's chopped liver. This guy won 5 rings and is going to go down as probably one of the 6 or 7 best players to ever lace him up.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to me that Steve Nash can get this credit when this guy's never won anything. And you're talking about a guy, Kobe Bryant, who has 5 rings. It seems to me he's done something right.
You know what's interesting? He plays in Los Angeles and didn't do squat before Shaq. Then Shaq left. He didn't do squat. Then he got Gasol, and he's had Phil Jackson. By the way, Nash has 2 MVPs to Kobe's 1. Played with sketchy ownership at the. I don't know. He didn't play with Sarver. My bad on that. He played with Joe Johnson. Look at who's surrounded. Amari Stoudemire. Look at players when they left Steve Nash in their prime. They disappeared. Shaq left and won rings.
What happened to Paul Gasol when Kobe got hurt? Paul Gasol's a decent player. Kobe Bryant won 2 rings with Paul Gasol. You just said it.
Yeah, but Kobe didn't do anything. Kobe didn't do anything. LeBron James got to a finals with Larry Hughes. Okay, Kobe Bryant couldn't win a series without a superstar.
LeBron James got swept in the finals with Larry Hughes. You're exactly right. He did get swept in the finals.
Yes, but
Kobe
he got
Bryant
there.
is the quintessential to Michael Jordan. He doesn't move the ball like Steve Nash. That's not what he's there to do.
Nobody's
He wins
disputing.
rings. He wins championships.
No, he did. Now he's done. He's on the Washington Generals because he's more concerned about sleeping on piles of money than being an interesting teammate.
Well, he's 36, 37. He should be worried about his money. That's exactly what he should worry about at this point.
He's got, I don't think, at $250 million, Tom Brady wants to win games. He has $350 million. Tom Brady doesn't go counting his money. That's why they're always viable, because Tom takes cuts. That's why Tom Brady still wins games.
Tom don't need money. He has Giselle's money. He's doing.
Well, no, Kobe doesn't need money either.
It's true.
Yeah, of course it's true. You're just making an argument for Kobe. Kobe has decided.
I'm just trying to tell you how good Kobe is.
Yeah, no, who cares? Wave the pom-poms on your local show. Wave your pom-poms on your local show. Okay, that's a local topic where you go wave your pom-poms and get autographs signed. We're talking about grown-up business here, okay? Kobe's great. Next. He's not great anymore. He's not a top 30 player in the league. He wants to retire on piles of money. Go worship at the stadium. Go buy a jersey. go for it. You're a fan. But you just called to say Kobe's great. Was. But he's consumed now with making money and not winning games. Nobody wants to play with him. Nash doesn't want to, but it's going to stay for the money. Gasol wanted out. Shaq wanted out. Dwight Howard wouldn't stay. Carmelo wouldn't bite. Guys I like and don't like. Nobody wants in. LeBron could have gone. No thanks. Kevin Love could have gone. No thanks. Kevin Love would rather play in L.A. than Cleveland. Listen, there'll be a local radio show near you to wave a pom-pom. But the reality is this franchise is done. I mean, nobody in the league could have paid Dwight Howard more. He said, no thanks. I mean, no thanks. And nobody's saying Gasol is Kobe. But Gasol's one of the smartest, easiest guys in this league to get along with. He struggled. But again, let's line them all up. I just want to call and say how great Kobe's is. Kobe's gotten a back rub from the media for 15 years. Now, time for a spanking, the first of his career. I mean, it's just an ego massage for 15 years. Yes, he was great. But those days are over. He's no longer great. He doesn't defend at an elite level. He's not an elite passer. He's not an elite rebounder. He's a good shooter. You're anti-Kobe. No, I'm pro-truth.
Check out The Herd with Colin Cowherd weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and on ESPNU. The Thundering Herd Podcast.